What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. Want to look over the numbers, the performance, the things that we can at least see so far. Now, I did this when Tape 1 came out, and I'm going to say a lot of the same kind of ground rules as I said back then, okay? This is not the be-all, end-all. I can't see everything. We're just talking about, kind of what I found, what I feel like talking about, and hopefully trying to draw some conclusions to it. Ultimately, it would be nice to find out from them how the game is doing. We may or may never, get to that situation. So there's two things I want to look at. We actually have improved from one thing. I do want to look at the Steam numbers, which we did back with Tape 1. I will say, spoilers, it's actually improved. So it's improved, but it's not amazing. So we'll talk about that. And then there was also their financial call, their financial report, and from Don't Nod, okay? And we're going to start there. Things are not looking good, but we kind of knew that, right? The company as a whole is not doing good whatsoever. I think to say that they're in a very bad situation would be actually more accurate than saying anything else, okay? So I actually saw this from Adnan, friend of the channel, over on Twitter. Now, you can go on, you can read the entire thing. This comes directly from them. 2024 full year results, okay? And this was posted like within the last 24 hours. Now you could say, okay, well, 2024, that really shouldn't have anything to do with Lost Records. Well, it does, because it goes over last year, but it also throws in one small little mention of Lost Records that I want to look over. As a whole, everything's down, okay? They are losing money. They're not making money. As we know, games like Jasant, which I actually really like that game was a failure for them. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, one of my favorite games of last year, a masterpiece in my opinion, was a colossal failure for them. So that's fantastic. But, you see that, they say that, everything's down. You could look at their numbers and all that jazz. Now, in terms of, they say 2025, right? 2025 is off to a strong start with several high-quality releases with long-term sales potential. Now, it's two games, but Lost Records is the first. Lost Records, available on PC, Xbox Series S and X, and PS5, has received critical acclaim. The game has a Metacritic score of an 80 and a Steam user score of 92, further confirming Don't Nod's expertise in the narrative adventure genre. Backed by a strategic partnership with Sony, the game's sales are in line with forecasts in an increasingly selective market. Now, I think it's important to start here, and I do think it's important to put PlayStation in the front, and I'll explain kind of what I mean here. This game I really do not think is performing probably anywhere but PlayStation, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And ultimately we don't know. That's my speculation, but I do have some things I guess to kind of back it up. So I guess if we're just looking at this analysis before we kind of go to what it's doing on PC, which again is not nearly as good. So they do say it started strong. The Metacritic score of an 80, that is rock solid. The Steam score of 92. I think that is being a little selective, because it's not a lot of people. It has a 92%. It's based off of 2,200 people. That really, I think, gets to the narrative that this game is not really being played on PC. I think it's being played on PC just by those that truly love Don't Nod and truly want to give them the chance here. I don't really think it's reaching far and wide. I feel like that would actually bring the score a little bit lower. I mean, it's a great score. I'm not saying you can't have a 92. I'm not trying to diminish it. Okay, that is a great thing, but it's not that many people. I wouldn't read into that, especially when it's 2,000 people. Now, if you have 30,000 people giving your game a 92, okay, that's a little bit different. But still, I guess it makes the point there. But the main part here, right, is that backed with Sony, the game's sales are in line with forecasts in an increasingly selective market. Now, the thing is, you don't really know. So much of it is still a mystery, right? That's why, I'm kind of just spitballing here. Yeah, I've done this with a lot of different games, and I feel like I'm getting better at analyzing these things, but we just don't know certain numbers, right? Now, the thing I've always said that I've just always, I really would love to know this info. What do the Game Pass and PS Plus contracts look like, right? Because you lock this behind PS Plus. No, I say you lock it behind. You're really, I think, making people, or you're going to entice them to get this game through PS Plus versus buying the game. Now, as they say, that's not entirely true, right? The game is selling in line with what they thought. Now, to throw in one quick thing there, that doesn't mean it's selling good or bad. It literally means it's selling what they think. Now, I would imagine that they wanted Bloom and Rage. In fact, I think they've said it before. They want Bloom and Rage to do really good. So maybe that's a great sign. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that part too much because, again, they just say it's selling in line with the forecast. Well, what's the forecast? Did they think it was going to sell 10,000? Because that would be terrible, right? But did they think it was going to sell a couple 100,000? Okay, that's a lot better. You don't really know, what they were forecasting. But, being on PlayStation Plus and then also just selling in line with what they thought, at least it's selling in line and not selling below. At least they whatever expectations they had, even if they were low, but they were reasonable, at least they nailed that forecast, right? So, you got to almost give props there. But, it's something I really would just like to know because, like, PS Plus, like, how many people are coming in through that, right? Like, is this game reaching a couple 100,000 people through PS Plus? And then if it is, what's that number compared to the sales? And then also, what did PlayStation or Sony, what do they pay them for that? And these numbers are almost never disclosed. Sometimes you'll have, like, indie developers talk about Game Pass, and they'll throw out, like, $1 million or $2 million. Like, those are the only numbers I've ever heard, is like a couple $1 million to get a game on Game Pass. Like, I don't think that would be good for Lost Records, right? If PlayStation said, I'll give you $2 million to put it on PS Plus, I think that's actually a losing deal because you're probably going to lose sales more than $2 million. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just feel like I would really like to know that number at some point. But I do think PS Plus is helping it because this is going to go to kind of part 2 to it, all right? So you go to Lost Records on Steam database. Now, we did this before, so we'll kind of try to rapid fire it. The game did do rather well compared to when the first tape came out. So you go back to when tape 1 came out, 1,990 was the all-time high. Okay, up until like 48 hours ago, that was the all-time high. It didn't even hit 2,000. Now, I had talked about that. That was not good, and this is still not that good. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. But that number is not fantastic. But you go till now, and the all-time peak when tape 2 came out actually beat it. This was something that I speculated back then. Does tape 2 beat it, or does it kind of get like cut in half? Like, do people actually come back, or does it gain? It actually did gain. Okay, so it almost reached, it was 4 out of 3,000. Okay, so you had almost 2,000, and then it went to almost 3,000. So about 1,000 gain. That's really good in terms of, now these are not big numbers. This is not, I think, successful whatsoever on Steam. Okay, but and I'm going to connect this to PlayStation now because I do think this proves that the game kind of received a boost. I feel like actually people maybe waited till tape 2 came out to do the entire thing. And yeah, it's smaller numbers, but it's smaller numbers because it's a smaller player base just in general on Steam. You go to PlayStation where I imagine it's doing a lot better. I also imagine, I should have taken a picture of this, by the way, but I imagine the numbers jumped there as well. So, again, I went over this back with tape 1, but just to kind of rapid fire why I don't think the game's doing good on Steam. You talk about Life is Strange. So many people will not only compare, but try to put Life is Strange Double Exposure down, which, look, people will do what they want to do. But people put Life is Strange Double Exposure down compared to this. Double Exposure actually wiped the floor with this game in pretty much every metric. I think except for like the all-time Twitch stats were a little bit closer in line. But in terms of estimated sales and in terms of the peak concurrent, this game got like a third of what Double Exposure got on Steam. Okay, only on Steam. That's not good because we know Double Exposure failed, and we also know people's opinions in Double Exposure. This game got like a third of that. Also, okay, go back to my opinion on Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. That's almost exactly in line with this game. Pretty close to in terms of the all-time peak. So this game matched on Steam the numbers of a game that destroyed Don't Nod from the inside. Okay, they formally admitted that Banishers, in terms of financial, was a huge colossal failure. That's what this game is matching up with on Steam. Now, does that mean that this game is a total failure? No, because I do think on PlayStation it's doing a lot better. In fact, I mentioned those review numbers, right? 2.2 thousand. You go to PlayStation, and this is where I should have taken the picture. Right now, it's at a 4.42, 8.8 thousand. So almost 9. That's almost 5 times, right? 4 plus times the number of reviews that it got on Steam. So again, we don't know the actual players on PlayStation. We also don't know how much it's sold on PlayStation versus PS Plus. But it's been rated 4 plus times more. So I'm not saying that necessarily means 4. Well, actually, I kind of am. Okay, because I was going to say, doesn't necessarily mean 4 times plus players on Steam, it better mean that, right? Because if the peak concurrent on Steam was 3,000, and by the way, we know that's not like the formal number of how many people bought it. It probably sold, it probably will sell anywhere between like 50 to 100,000 on Steam. Now, I don't think that's good actually whatsoever for a game that they want to be, this kind of juggernaut for their company. But if it sells 100K on Steam and it sells 4, 5, 6 times that on PlayStation, now you've reached 500,000. Right? I mean, actually, just as easy as that, you've reached 500,000. So that's how I think this game is going to kind of make it. Whether or not it's selling that on PlayStation or going through PS Plus, it's definitely outperforming it on PlayStation. So that's kind of where I see the future of this. I mean, again, based off of this entire thing, like I constantly am saying, it is just speculation. I know maybe I'm talking confidently, but I am just speculating, okay? I wish this game success. I don't need it to sell like 10 million to make my day or anything. I want Don't Nod to survive, right? So it's like, I guess whatever this game needs to do to keep Don't Nod around, I hope that it does that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.